This is just a quick little video about the structure of Longinus's essay on the Sublime. And I think you might find this useful, especially if you're reading Longinus in an anthology and you have access to selections only. It can be quite difficult to kind of follow the logic of his essay. So let's go through this quickly. The first part of the text consists of a kind of introduction. First, he defines the Sublime, and then he talks a little bit about whether the Sublime is something that you can be born with, in a sense, that you're a born genius and you just know how to write masterpieces, or whether you can have rules that can be found out through art, and we can kind of codify these rules and talk about them. Then after that, Longinus spends a few sections talking about what is not sublime. For instance, bombast, a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, right? So we have to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, and bombast is things that sound impressive, but they're a little bit over the top. Section 8 is really the critical section, kind of like your thesis statement at the end of your introduction. This is where Longinus talks about the 5 different features of the Sublime: grand thoughts, passionate language, poetic figures, noble diction, and harmonious sentence structure. And it's hard to name these. If you use different translations, you're going to find different wordings of these. But this is sort of roughly what he's talking about here. Most of what follows then in his essay is a working out of these 5 aspects. And if you look at this, at section A, for instance, these are sections 9 through 15. These deal with grand thoughts. And what this refers to is that if you want to write a great work of literature, you better be a great person, right? Because literature is a reflection of the soul. So you cannot just be writing about mean things, about silly things. You have to write about great things. And that also means for Longinus that you have to have some sense of morality, that you have to be a noble person at some level. Section B, passionate language, this is missing from the manuscript, which is unfortunate. Then we have section C, figures of speech, and one of the threads that runs through this section, or this part, is the focus on passion. So when you are passionate, you tend to ignore conjunctions, you combine multiple poetic figures, you kind of get carried away, right? So passion is what really allows you to reach your audience and to have an impact. Then we have section D, which deals with diction, the power of specific words, and section E is a bit more general again, and this deals with the whole package. How do you put the whole thing together? How do you create rhythm and music and so on and so forth? And then the last part, the conclusion, is very short. It's kind of one chapter at this point, or one section. And Longinus discusses very briefly the issue of politics, whether it's a dictatorship or a democracy would be better as a form of government in terms of stimulating the kind of environment that would lead to sublime works of art. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of the structure of the essay before you delve in and look at specific points in more detail.